Mm-hmm.
I really like organizing too, like
Mm-hmm.
just coming home and like the living room being like everything where it needs to be brings me a sense of calmness. So
Applying labels from a label maker, let me tell you.
I know, I was born
What
to
a
be
joy.
a teacher.
What about you, Victoria? Do you have anything that just makes you feel so happy and cared for? It's not school related at all.
Well, I love spending time with my family. Like, I'm a storyteller, so with my own Empathy Tales podcast, like I create stories for my kids, and so they often bring kind of like journaling. I take an idea and I bring it into a story and I make up the story, and they're just kind of off the cuff on my own.
Yeah, because you have your own personal podcast.
Yes.
Would you like to share that with
Let's
our
plug
listeners?
it. Empathy Tales.
So I have an Empathy Tales podcast, and it's stories that I created for my kids about a magical, mythical world called the Oak and Eagle Kingdom, and they're all about like compassion and empathy, and it's teaching kids about perspective taking. And so I've been doing that now for about a year. The podcast has been around for about a year, so it's very exciting to continue that. And that's just where I have my flow, where I start telling a story and they just start, like, the words just flow out of my mouth, and I just beautiful, because my kids can get some really great virtues out of that. I feel like it's a living legacy for me.
I was just going to say, what a legacy to leave. Like, one day down the line, you're going to have, possibly grandkids, great-great-grandkids re-listening to your stories, and how cool is that you've left that for them?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I'm really excited about kind of seeing where this will be going. And I also love running. I was in a car accident over 12 years ago, and so I had to stop running for a while, but I'm back running now, and I just love being out in nature, and going for a 30 minutes run is just my bliss. I love being able to be immersed in nature. So how about you guys?
Mine is not as wholesome as your guys' is. I really enjoy deep diving into the world of crime and psychological, not thrillers, but more of like learning about psychology, like the psychology of crime. So I listen to a lot of podcasts about like sort of infamous cases and how they were broken down, and I know that Sabrina and I, we listen to a lot of the same podcasts, and we went to see a live podcast once about true crime, a true crime comedy podcast, which you would never think go together, but it just speaks to the importance of having a sense of humor and how that helps us cope with our traumas. So I'm very interested. I started my educational journey in psychology and was really attracted to the psychology of crime, and it's very interesting. So my husband and I will often watch documentaries about people who've gone to jail for various crimes, different kinds of, it's not just murder or anything specific. It's very interesting to see things that lead up to people committing these crimes, and just different states and different countries and how things are handled in the legal system. And I've befriended some criminal lawyers just so that I can pick their brains, and that's kind of where I find it makes my heart really happy. Just
because it's almost like a form of learning.
It is, and I love to learn. Like I'm definitely 100% that lifelong learner, and I really love to learn about what makes these people tick and how things are resolved. And it's very interesting to see how resilient humankind is in dealing with so much trauma. And I find people very fascinating. People are very fascinating to me. So that's kind of, sometimes I'll lock myself away in my bedroom and I'll watch a little documentary or a series about something infamous, and or listen to one of my podcasts and just thank my lucky stars. My life is pretty good, and I've got healthy people around me, and we love each other, and I'm grateful. It makes me grateful for the life that I lead. So
and I think that just like this all just kind of highlights how we all have different things that we're passionate about, and it's not necessarily like going in and teaching, but it's coming out and it's like, what do we do with those other parts of our lives that bring us joy? There is like this big question that we have at the end. Is there a work-life balance?
Is there such a thing? is it this like imaginative, thing that they throw at us in teaching school and say, you must achieve this in order to be, a successful human?
I feel like it definitely looks different for each person, because I feel like some people, their joy is their work, so bringing it home is not anything different. And I'm not saying, like, for myself that I enjoy my work any less. It's just I have different things that make up, Sabrina.
Totally.
And it's not just teaching. It's my passion, but it's I'm definitely still looking for it. I know helping, like, establish boundaries has been helpful. But do I think it exists? Maybe it's like a holy grail, some mythical thing that we're reaching for all the time, because we're so stressed out that we're just hoping that there is something there that we can go towards. I'm not too sure.
Do you think it exists, Victoria?
I think that it depends on where you are in life. I think that, often teachers who've just finished Teachers College have an amazing amount of enthusiasm and energy to apply their stuff. And so their capacity to be able to kind of throw themselves into full-time work and invest those extra hours into their classroom is somewhat easier. But then when you're dealing with maybe a parent who's dying, or a young family, or you're pregnant with your third and you're just trying to juggle life and your husband just lost his job. I just think that we have to think of it as an ebb and flow, and that I don't think you can ever be perfect, and I don't even know if the term perfect really exists, because we all kind of have different expectations for what we want in teaching. I think we also have to be easier on ourselves. I think as teachers, our job is to critique our 30 kids or our 22 kids all the time, and I think that automatically kind of flows into our own personal life, and I think we have to really let that go and really just believe that we're doing the best we can with the skills we have and the strategies we have. And I think being able to give that grace to our colleagues too, by giving them thank you cards, or spending a little bit more time with them when they're just emotionally offloading, also kind of helps us in our journey to say, hey, I didn't get to mark those 30 math tests, but instead I spent 30 minutes with the teacher next door who just needed to emotionally offload. And at the end of the day, really, like, we really need to care for people. And caring for people means that we have to have that ebb and flow with the work and life balance. So I don't think the word balance is probably a good word to use in there, because it sounds like it could be balanced. I don't think it'll ever be balanced. I think it's a flow that you have to go in, and depending on your circumstances and your life situation, it's going to flow different directions and different ways, and it's going to look differently to different people. So yeah, I don't even know if I really believe in the term work-life balance, because I just don't think that those words encapsulate what we should be striving for.
Yeah, I agree. And I totally see what you're talking about with the whole it being a situational thing, because I remember being, my long practicum feels like an eternity ago now, but I remember one of the criticisms that I had from my school associates was, hey, Jess, one day you're gonna, be married and have kids, and you're not gonna be able to be the last parking lot in the school, or last car in the parking lot in the school anymore. Like, you're not gonna be able to be friends and intimately connect with all of the custodial staff, because you're gonna have a family waiting for you. Let me tell you, some of the most interesting conversations I've ever had have been with the custodians that I've worked with, and I love speaking with them and being their friends, and I think it's great. But that being said, I don't feel like teachers should be in the building when the nighttime cleaning is happening, because, they should be out there living their lives. But that was one of the things that my essays had to say to me. You can't be at school until 7. There's just no way that you can do that when you have a young family. And it's very true. I mean, aside from all the picking up and dropping off and everything that needs done, you just can't. You have to go home. You have to do things. People need clothes to wear the next day. People need lunches in their backpacks. And you have to make time to actually spend quality time with people too. Like, whatever that looks like for you. Sometimes it's just sitting and watching a silly show with my son. Sometimes it's playing My Little Pony with my daughter. Sometimes it's just sitting there and brushing her hair after a bath. Like, it has to be something quality. And I don't know that the balance exists. I think as educators, we are so passionate about our kids, and we love our kids. I think we really do. And when I don't know about you guys, I'm not going to speak for you, but I love my kids. I love my own kids, and I love the kids that I teach, and I think about them all the time. And when I say that I miss them over the summer, I really mean it. And even the ones that are turkeys, 95% of the time and drive you crazy,
yeah.
I miss them. I miss being around them, and I miss hearing about all the shenanigans they get up to. So, I think there's overlap. I think there's definitely overlap, and I don't think that there's ever going to be an actual balance, but I think there are those boundaries we can put in place for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just taking care of yourself in whatever works best for you, be it yoga or reading a book.
And I think our conversation has, evolved into almost a circle here, because we started talking about boundaries and then we started talking about balance. But I think in the end, it really is about work-life boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think we need to start talking about that, because I think that's the important piece. And I think that ultimately, as teachers, we have to recognize we all have goals professionally, but also personally. And I think this piece about self-care, hopefully those that are listening can come away and start thinking about what are ways that you can put self-care into your life. What are the boundaries you have currently, or perhaps you wish you had? And I think we can leave you with that, and hopefully this conversation and this round table about self-care has enlightened you, and maybe if you are interested, you can connect with us about your feedback, your thoughts, your insights about this round table. Maybe you have a round table idea, theme that you might want us to talk about. So please reach out to us on all the major social media platforms, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.